This is the T.A.R Life Podcast from Team Anderson Realty.
Thank you for joining us. Another episode of T.A.R Life. Team Anderson Realty, my co-host Melody Tate, my executive assistant Jennifer, and we have Blaine today. He's with New Leaf Home Inspections, so I'm very excited to ask him a lot of questions. And we're going to start, though, with Frying Pan Tower. So Jennifer and we decided, I remember seeing about Frying Pan Tower years ago. And I was like, that would be a really cool place. But when I first went on their website, they weren't doing any type of Airbnb or, to get on there. So I hadn't thought anything of it. And then I saw a YouTube video and I showed it to Diane and I said, wouldn't it be so, Diane's my office manager / aunt. And I said, wouldn't it be so cool if we went here? And she was like, yeah. So she went on the website and she saw that you could actually Airbnb it. And so they allowed us to we could get our own ride via helicopter, or we could take a boat, or we could swim there, however we can manage. So
how many miles is that?
32 miles. Yeah, about 32 or so. It's international waters, and it looks like an oil rig, but it was a lighthouse. And they call it Frying Pan Tower because from a helicopter or plane, it kind of resembles like a frying pan.
Well, it's on frying pan shoals.
That too.
So,
but it also looks like a frying pan. So
Yeah.
they kind of like connected it all. So it's Frying Pan Tower. And so we coordinated this with Richard. He's not the owner, but he's the one that bought it from the auction, and then he sold shares. And so he runs it, and he's the brains behind the operation. And he's really the face of Frying Pan Tower, and he's very passionate, but he is not the only owner. His wife is probably, I think she's the primary owner. But anyways, he was our host. And we we went via helicopter. I brought my father, who's an agent in my firm. And we had a family friend who's also our CPA. She went on her own and she paid her own way, but she met us there. And so we just get on a helicopter. And this was like within 3 or 4 weeks of deciding to do this. We coordinate it, we buy our own groceries, and then we have to make sure that we don't weigh too much to get, to Frying Pan
Very
Tower.
important.
Yeah, and they only
Helicopter,
give you
I get
one
it.
time. So you get one ride there and one ride back. And they don't give you like an extra one, the company that, you
the
hire.
heavy stuff with us.
Exactly. So we
Makes
arrive
sense.
and it is absolutely amazing. Nobody or very few people, unless you've been on an oil rig, you've not been on a platform in the ocean and something not moving. So whether it's a cargo ship, a cruise ship, or anything like that, you're not used to being in it. So we had some amazing views. We had sunsets, we had amazing food, and we were able to watch the shark cams and see the wildlife that was below us. And Richard he gave us a fireworks show, and he explains what they were doing. We had kind of barracks that we slept in, no air conditioning. I think that they've changed that since, but you didn't really need it because you had the ocean breeze.
Yeah.
And so the best thing, I think, and I'm going to ask Jennifer what she was thinking, but we decided that initially we wanted to go scuba diving, but the currents were way too strong out there in international waters, and it was not going to be, it wasn't going to be safe. And so we decided we were not going to do that, but a fishing boat came out. Well, I guess they were spear fishermen. And so they were nice enough to kind of host us for a snorkeling adventure. And
Keep in
Jennifer,
mind, I've never
she's never done
snorkeled
it
in my life.
in her life. And they were, I would say it was 4 to 5 foot seas.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And so it was not exactly just a flat, beautiful water.
Like
Greece. Yeah, but I'm like, we needed to rappel down this platform 80 feet or so.
No big deal.
Just
It's like a
hanging.
wooden swing, and you're just sitting there. And so Chad, my husband, went down first, and he had this underwater camera, and he is, doing a little bit of snorkeling. But I had told him before he left, I said, you need to fix your snorkel because it's not attached properly, and I don't like the way that it's sitting on your mast. So I'm a certified scuba diver, and so is my husband, but I've been certified since 98, and he got certified when we met. So he doesn't have as much experience as I do. And I didn't realize that he was not an advanced snorkeler. So he's down there, and Richard's like, hey, is he like, pretty good swimmer? And I'm like, oh, he's amazing. He's a great snorkeler. He's very athletic. I'm like, let him do whatever. So he tells Chad to just go swim around and hang out. And so he's almost smashing into the tower because of the currents. Yeah. And he looks like he's drowning, but we thought he was just kind of going with the flow. So then Jennifer, she looks at me for 1 second. She's like, I don't think I can do this. And I was like, of course you can do this. I'm like, can you swim? And she was like, well, yeah. And I go, well, I was like, here's a snorkel, and here's a mask. And so you just swim and put your face down. And she was like, all right, I'm going to do this.
Sounds easy.
And I will say, I'm going to let her explain her experience. But so I went down and I'm like, okay, this is eerie. And you get in the water, you have zero visibility, and you have a little bit of visibility, but not initially. And so all you're thinking about is Jaws and bull sharks or some crazy, we saw hammerhead when we first came. Before. Huge hammerhead. Yeah. And they're kind of aggressive. Nope. So I'm getting in the water and I'm like, wow, this is really eerie and it feels uncomfortable. And I prefer to dive. I don't like snorkeling on the surface because I feel like you look like a prey animal. But, you only live once. Yeah, You're Frying Pan Tower. We can't scuba dive. Even though we brought our own gear. And so I'm down there and I'm waiting for Jennifer.
Oh, I was freaking out. I mean,
it's extreme for your first time.
It is, but if somebody tells me you'll regret this, I don't care how extreme it is, I'm probably going to do it.
Great.
Because I know that I will regret it.
She had a dive master on the ship. So I felt like the guys that we were.
And Richard gave me the best pep talk right before I went down. He was like, you just get in the water and swim. Make sure you swim because there's barnacles. And it will kill you and you'll die. They're going to cut you up if you hit them. So you just need to swim because the current's pushing us into the legs of the tower. So we just get in and I took off. The boat's way over there. When I first got in the water, barracuda.
It was probably a 4 foot long. These were established barracudas.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, we're swimming. we're going because it's barracuda, barnacles.
It wasn't
great. Okay, just get away from everything. And I did, and it was fine. And then they pulled me onto the boat.
Oh, that was so funny. So what did they say when you,
I go to the boat and I'm like, all right, where's the ladder? And they were like, we don't have a ladder. And I'm going crazy in the water. Two guys grab my hands. And they pull half my body onto the boat, but I can't get the rest of me up.
Didn't they say you need to try?
They were like, yeah, pull your own legs in. Panicking a little bit because there's so much going on. But it was great.
So we get in the boat and you can really tell the seas when you're on this boat. And it was a good size boat. Would you say 30 feet, 25 feet? It wasn't huge, but it was a good size. And so you realize that it was really 3 to 5 foot seas. And so Jennifer was like, I don't think I can do it. And I'm like, you just did it. You just did it. You just did it. And so,
okay.
And
that's
so
all you have to say.
I was like, come on, let's go. And then I throw myself in and Chad throws himself in and Jennifer throws herself in. And she and I are having the time of our lives because as soon as we got away from the tower, there was more visibility. You had the other people that was spearfishing and you just felt a lot more safe with the group that we were with. Now, I do know that Chad looked like he was dying. And I was worried. I was worried because I was like, Jennifer, I think there's something wrong with Chad because he had this seasick face. And I was like, are you going to,
and he's like, yeah, I'm good.
I was like, are you going to pass out and drop down to the bottom of the ocean? And he was like, I'm not. And I'm like, I think you're going to get really sick. So we ended up, I grabbed the camera and I thought maybe that will help him. Maybe he's having a hard time swimming. But apparently he had been inhaling salt water because of his snorkel that he didn't change. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like I told him
to your wife, buddy.
Yeah. And you're listening to this. He's turning green and he really looks like he's going to die. So I said, all right, I'm going to make a call and let's just finish this a little bit earlier because I know him. He will not get back on the boat unless we go back on the boat.
And he kept saying that he was fine the entire time.
But he did throw up in the ocean multiple times.
He was on the other side of the... Yes. He was on the other side of the boat. And we were like, Chad, what are you doing back there? And he's like, Erlen.
So then once we finished, then we had to go back on the wooden platform. So you have to get off the boat when they get close enough. And then you have to fight the current in the seas
And
throw yourself on this platform, which is now slippery because it's wood. And you're holding on and you're just drenched and you're going up and you just hear, and it's actually, I think it was a lot safer than it felt, but it was like clicking. It was like, click. And I'm like, oh, it's going to drop this weight. It's too intense for it. But I'm going up and I'm not the heaviest thing that
I remember like wrapping the rope around my arms just in case I slipped off. I'm like, I'm just going to hang on.
Yeah. It was absolutely amazing. And it was a great time. But we decided that we wanted to go in the middle of the night, not really the middle of the night, but like 9, 10 o'clock at night in the darkness.
It's dark. Yeah.
Drop down and put our feet in the water or just hover right above it. And Richard was like, that sounds a little dangerous. So he asks my father, he's like, are you comfortable with this? And my father's like, not on a wooden platform. He's like, but do you have anything a little bit safer?
Yeah, like a harness.
So Richard gives us a beacon. So if we somehow get out of our harness, then we have a beacon for international recovery.
Somebody might find you.
They might. But honestly, I think we probably would have drowned we had these harnesses and there was no getting out of those. So if we really were in the water and we got submerged, I think we would have drowned. So the beacons would have been pointless. But it
worth it.
I make it sound more dangerous than it was, but Richard really, he made sure that everything was safe and he made sure that if we wanted to go up right away, we did. My dad ended up going down with Vivian and Diane did with Chad, and it was super, super fun.
I was much more nervous going down in the day and swimming in the water than I was doing that. That felt like I was on
we were pros after that.
Well, yeah, you already been there.
We were pros. And we knew we didn't have to get back. Getting back on the swing when you're wet is really uncomfortable. But I definitely recommend it. If you guys ever want to go to Frying Pan Tower, and you can volunteer there and just pay your way, figure out how to get there, or coordinate with Richard, of course, or you can Airbnb it. At least they were still doing that last I heard. You can do New Year's Eve. You can do hurricanes. If you want to encounter a hurricane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is intense.
That would be so fun.
Probably not snorkeling.
No, then you would die. Yeah. That would be a death sentence. But it was amazing. And I think he's got a new jet ski or new to him jet ski so that if you do Airbnb it, you can possibly take the jet ski. There are definitely things that you can do. Fishing. Yeah. You can do an array of things. You can cook the stuff that you fish or you can bring it. But amazing time. And so
highly recommend.
Yes. So now we're going to go into Blaine, and he is a home inspector. You do residential, right?
We do. Yeah.
Do you do commercial at all?
Light commercial.
Okay.
Dentist offices and things like that.
Okay.
No Walmarts or Targets or anything.
And what areas do you serve?
We serve everywhere. We're based out of the Triangle, but we literally go, for example, this morning I was on the border of South Carolina. So we go all the way down past Fayetteville, all the way up to Virginia, all the way west as far as Burlington, Winston-Salem, and then all the way up to almost the coast. So
he did Wilmington. He did a Wilmington inspection.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll go out there for certain people. We will. Yeah, we'll go.
Mention the T.A.R. Life podcast, and he will go to Wilmington.
Get there. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah,
but yeah, we cover a wide area. We do.
That's great. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. What is? I'm going to give you a scenario. We have used a lot of home inspectors in the past. And I have encountered situations where the seller calls the home inspector that the buyer contracts out and asks questions.
Sure.
Do you limit your response to a seller if they call you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in North Carolina, our licensure board and our rules, they're very strict with us as home inspectors, and that's good for our clients. Protects everyone. So if anyone ever calls on the seller's behalf and says, "Hey, what was this? What was that?" I'll either defer back to the buyer's agent or just simply say, "Hey, this is the buyer's report and this is their information. If they're willing to share this with you, have the buyer reach out to me or their buyer's agent reach out to me and say, hey, you can discuss this with them." That's what we always say.
That's a good point.
Now, if I get an okay from an agent or a buyer that says, "Hey, yeah, tell them whatever you want," I'll say, "Sure, no problem." I'm absolutely happy to have, a further conversation, maybe explain things a little bit better to a seller so they can understand what's going on. because sometimes people just don't know, and that's okay.
Yes. Well, and sometimes I think the other party, and I don't think that their intentions are always bad, but sometimes they'll try to talk to a home inspector to make the report itself not seem as damaging in their eyes. And when you're looking at a home, you're looking for things not functioning as intended, considering normal wear and tear, right?
Yep.
So you're not looking at cosmetic things that are normal wear and tear. You're looking at things that are not functioning, considering the wear and tear that property has had.
That's exactly right. So we're not going in there looking for, the paint doesn't match, like you said, cosmetic things like that. Oh, the floor doesn't match, things like that. Or it's, they did half of the floor in this wood and then they did the other half in that wood. That's not relevant to us. As long as it's being a floor and not damaged or, indicating any damage, then we're going to move right along. We do tiptoe that line on new construction for our clients. Like if you go into a new construction home, you guys know the blue tape walkthrough.
Yeah.
We're not going to do anything that extensive, but if there's a larger crack or something like settlement crack or something like that.
Because the wear and tear wouldn't be, it's new construction, right?
That's right.
It shouldn't have.
Right. And they're going to fix most of those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're not really worried too much about those things. Now, if it's obviously a crack that's indicator of a structural problem, then that's a different story. But yeah.
So what would you do in a situation? So Jennifer, tell him about your home and your crawl space. And if you can ask him, based on that situation, if he could look at anything.
Well, when I purchased the home, it was like such an incredibly low price that I had to, but the crawl space is like 6 inches.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
So it's almost 100 years old.
Okay. Yeah. That's normal.
And it's very uneven. So
yeah.
What would you?
There's not a lot we can do. Some inspectors use bots that go in there, little robocars that'll go in with cameras. But even then, those have limitations. If we can't physically fit into a crawl space or it's not safe for us to go in there, we'll just generally say, hey, we looked at what we could look at and this is what we saw. We'll take a moisture reading at the access if there is one, so we can get an overall idea of the moisture content in the crawl space, kind of look around as much as we can. But everyone's limited in that scenario. So if you do have a problem on those older homes with low crawl spaces, you have to think about, okay, who's going to go in there and fix a plumbing leak down there? They're probably going to have to do it from top to the bottom, from the floor. And that's why also in those older homes, you see the old crawl space accesses that have been covered up and things like that.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know they had bots though. That would be really helpful. Do you guys have a bot?
No, because
I think you need to get one.
No, because they're one, they're extremely expensive, and then two, when not if, but when your bot gets stuck.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Now, could you just tie a little line on it and fish it out?
No, because
yes, you can.
No, it's an accident waiting to happen. And it's a mess. So we do fly drones, but that's about it.
Well, that's good. At least you have the drones for the roof. And I mean, if the house has been there a long time,
right? It's been there that long. There's two ways to look at it. That's right.
Most of the time, when I've had them out, that's what I like about them, is they're actually getting on the roof.
Oh, yeah. If we can walk on the roof, we'll walk on the roof
and
for
if
sure.
not, they're always doing a ton of drone images with video. So that's super helpful.
What's your turnaround time on report?
Same day, always on the home inspection report. So
I got one yesterday, did it yesterday morning, and I had it by 3. And we didn't finish till 12.
Yeah.
It's very quick.
Yeah, our software is pretty cool. We report as we go along on our phones or tablets, whatever the guys want to use. And I think that's important that we are documenting the home as we're there. That way we're not taking anything to our house. And you know how it is when you get home. You get kids and things to take care of and you get sidetracked. And if you're looking at photos of a house, it's really hard, for me anyways, to go back and say, all right, well, what window was that? What room is this in? It's almost impossible, especially if you're doing 2 homes a day, then, you get wrapped up. So
what was your background before home inspection?
I was in the military
Okay.
prior. I was in the Army for 8 years.
What did you do in the Army?
Air and missile defense in the Army. So I had a great time. Actually, that's where I met my wife.
Attention to detail.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, I had a pretty tedious job. We deployed twice.
Meet your wife while you were deployed?
I met her in the military, not while we deployed, but we did deploy together on my second deployment. So that was like a deployment. Yeah.
Aww.
We went to UAE. Cool. My first deployment was more of a rigorous one, but my second deployment, we went to United Arab Emirates. We were on an Air Force base. So they had a pool and was a hangout, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of how when Austin went to Kuwait, just hung out.
Oh, yeah, Kuwait. Yeah, I passed through there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I like about them, too, is their reports are really easy to read. and they walk the clients through everything. So yesterday they walked them through everything. The last 30 minutes, I always tell my client, show up the last 30 minutes and let's walk through everything. Because he had never been in an attic space. He had never been in a crawl space. So Artie actually walked him into the attic, was like, this is an attic. This is what you should do here. And then walked him in the crawl space. And then they walked through the report. So as things were happening and saying, okay, you've got this going on in the crawl space, because the house was 66 years old. So he walked him through everything so he could explain, like, this part of the house actually has a slab underneath because this house was probably added onto at one point because it's 66 years old. It's in downtown Fuquay. So he walked them through everything. And the report's not scary because it really points out recommendations. I can't remember like how the color coding works, but and usually when I see red, I freak out.
Yeah. We do it like blue and orange normally. Orange, more important things. Blue is kind of like, whenever you get to it kind of thing.
Like a punch list.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice for the clients to have.
Can make a punch list with their report. So we can literally go, like if the client says, I want A, B, and D fixed, you can click on those things and it makes it on a spreadsheet that's completely separate. So they're not seeing the whole report too. That's kind of nice.
Yeah. The repair request builder. It's very important. A lot of agents use that.
I want to know like the craziest thing that you've seen on a resale home like an inspection.
Gosh, it's endless. Not even on a resale. I mean, just yesterday we were at someone added a sunroom onto the back of a very, very nice $1 million house in Clayton, and they added an enclosed sunroom. So you can imagine brick siding, things like that. It was to the point where I was in the crawl space below the home, and the piers that reached the floor joists were not touching each other. And when you walk in the sunroom, you can literally see the floors, wonky and not level. Yeah, it is just really bad. And it's a home you would look at and say, okay, everything's going to be perfect in this house.
And passed?
Absolutely. I mean, the guy said yes, but he's just the guy living in the house. And he didn't seem too familiar with anything. Yeah, I don't even.
Do you know if it was?
I didn't look up any permits on it, no, but there's no way that, to me, there's no way that an actual, because you need a general contractor at that point. Obviously, it's more than $30,000, I'm assuming, because he had plumbing, HVAC, separate bathroom added in there and things.
Oh
so
my.
yeah, so it was the only things that looked great were the plumbing and HVAC. You can tell they called a plumber and an HVAC guy out there, and they actually did that correctly. But as far as the structure itself, it was pretty rough as far as that goes.
So the seller was home while you did that inspection?
Yeah.
Was it for a buyer?
It was for a person living in the house, and they just wanted the addition inspected. Okay. And thankfully they did, because
after it was completed.
Yes, that's right. It was very bad.
That's a good thing. We all use home inspections or recommend them when you purchase. And then I also recommend them at the 1 year.
Oh, yeah.
And often I'll recommend a different home inspector for the 1 year. And you guys have several in your company.
Yes.
Just to get another set of eyes on it. But I have had inspections done where it's just, I'm not going to ask for repairs, but I just want to know what they find.
Yeah.
And obviously inspectors are not, they're not all knowing, but your goal is to find as much as you possibly can. It's just the buyer needs to understand that they won't necessarily find everything because they're only human.
Right.
And so as long as it's not like a jarring oversight, I don't think that's
right.
But you can use them for if you have somebody working on, an addition or a deck, just to have another set of eyes. If you don't know a licensed general contractor that is even willing to come out and put a set of eyes on it, and they usually aren't if it's not their own job. A home inspector,
if they're not making money, it's hard to get
a home inspector is a great, and they don't want necessarily the liability or the confrontation with another contractor.
That's exactly right.
We're probably almost back in those days too, where sellers might do inspections prior to listing to provide that value, before they list a home.
Especially with the older properties, with
absolutely.
the unknowns. It's nice because a lot of buyers, see, I'm like Jennifer. I will, like my office is 1935.
Sure.
I did not have a home inspection on that because I knew it was, they
thought
thought it was a tear down, you know? I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. Like, all right, it's bad. Got it.
Yeah. And I'm like, but I know that everything can be fixed.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of your resources and how much you're willing to spend. And if you have people that that aren't going to overinflate the numbers. And if you're willing to do it, one step at a time. And so I think that if you have a buyer that is more cautious or they're less risk tolerance, like we have high risk tolerance, and I would say Mel does too, because of your mountain home.
Absolutely.
It's just, it gives them that peace of mind because, just because you don't have a high risk tolerance doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It just means
Right.
that you need to be comfortable with your purchase. And so that extra peace of mind is a really great value. How much approximately do the home inspections cost? It range, and we're not going to hold you to
They
that.
start around $350, $400, and then the older and larger the home is, they increase. Our scheduler's live, and it's up to the minute, and you can select the date and time, inspector you want, and things like that.
Do you release the report before it's paid for?
No, we do not.
That's good.
So it blocks. It's a fail safe. So the clients have to pay. We do offer pay at closing. So if you
I don't like that.
yeah, we charge to do it. Yeah, we charge $100 to kind of.
I don't even like having that as an option because a lot of closings, especially now, are falling through. And in the past, when we had, I would say 2010 to 2013, there were a few people that I even worked with that after they were not, either they closed and they didn't have the funds to pay for it, or they felt like they shouldn't have to pay for the funds. Or it fell through, they didn't want to pay for it. Same with surveyors. And so I think it's a little risky. I don't know if I, as a business owner, would want an extra $100 or whatnot to have it paid at closing, knowing that there's got to be a percentage that I'm going to eat. Or have to go pursue the buyer to get reimbursed for.
We work with a lot of great realtors in the area. And so you kind of almost know. If that makes sense.
You don't know.
What?
You kind of almost know.
Don't know.
Well,
I don't trust any person to pay. Like,
no, me either. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple experiences where it was like a repetitive thing. And so then you definitely know. So one buyer in particular, didn't close, same thing. Oh, I don't want to pay. And then it's an automatic, all right, no. And we'll request another inspection kind of thing for me anyways. For us, I like to provide the option. I don't promote it or anything like that, but it is there if somebody needs it. Sure.
I do not recommend other agents even.
No, we'd rather you not.
Yeah.
My clients pay. I tell all of my clients to pay for the inspections up front. It's just something you've got to budget in, like closing costs, that you're going to have done. So
absolutely. And, the more stuff that you have on the closing disclosure as a fee, it can, just
it's all
throw
jumbled
things.
up.
Yeah, it can throw things off in the underwriting and with the lender. And so it's nice of you to offer that. But I would never recommend one of our agents even recommending that because then you have to think about it. So I always feel really obligated to make sure that our vendors are paid.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel horrible if you guys weren't paid by one of my clients.
Yeah.
No, I know.
And it would create tension too between you and the relationships we have with our vendors too.
Yeah. I had one client one time that he just felt like he closed on the property, and this was many years ago, and he just felt like he shouldn't have to pay it.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, buddy, well, you have to pay it. And it was like a $300, but I'm like, this is what you get for a peace of mind. And it's optional.
Right.
You don't have to do it.
Right.
But I'm not going to eat that expense that you chose to do.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being okay, but it created tension. So I wish that the home inspector at the time had just made them pay for it when it was done. Then it wouldn't even be an issue.
Yep.
Right.
Well, most of the time too, if they're going to the inspection, they're getting kind of a rundown. So at that point, they probably want it. But do you find that do you see that doing inspections on new construction is just as valuable as a resale?
Oh, absolutely.
People always ask me that question. And of course I say yes, because I did one. And then you guys came out at 11 months and I had termites, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But why do you think it's valuable to do it on new construction?
Really, because at the end of the day, we're all human, right? So people think of builders and even these larger builders that do it thousands of times a year, Dan Ryan. They think Mr. Dan Ryan's out there building the house, right? Yeah. As a consumer, if you're not familiar, then you don't know. And so we're all human, and mistakes are made on every single house, even with a county inspection, the city guys that go out there. We find broken trusses and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just, and no fault of not throwing any builders under the rug or anything like that, but we're human and we make mistakes.
Absolutely.
And that's why we have a job.
Some of them make more mistakes than they should be, and so we don't want to throw them under the bus, but they don't.
I see a lot of broken trusses.
There's
seen
a lot.
A ton on
that's probably the most common on new
construction. Which is huge when they go to resell the home.
Yeah.
Because then you got to have a structural engineer out.
Yeah.
So if you go ahead and have it done now, the builder has to put provide you with that structural report.
Well, they'll do it as long as it's within that structural time frame too, but they're so slow.
They are. So it's better to get the result now because they usually have a structural engineer that they're working with. So
typically, yeah.
And they get it like right away.
Yeah, he'll get out there quick.
Yeah. And then you guys work with Raleigh Radon.
We do. Yeah, Wake Radon does our radon tests for us and indoor air quality and stuff like that. But they do have an engineer. Wake Air does have an engineer.
Do you have like a recommendation, or do you work with a company if somebody wanted to test for lead or methamphetamines or anything like that?
Yeah, we don't do any in-depth testing as far as chemicals or anything like that, but lead paint we can do. Lead paint's touchy, like asbestos and popcorn ceilings is touchy. There are a lot of rules in North Carolina that prevent a lot of guys from doing it. You have to go through this extensive thing on asbestos anyways to get your certification. If some is, for example, fallen off of the ceiling, then we can collect that sample and turn that in, but we cannot personally remove anything. And same thing with lead paint. We can't personally like chip away the paint.
I mean, I would just tell people, I personally tell people if it's within a certain age, it's expected to be somewhere in the house.
Correct, yes.
And if it's not in popcorn ceilings, it can be in
somewhere.
Vinyl tiles, and it can be wrapped around
You never know. Yeah,
insulation.
HVAC insulation for your ductwork. We used to use it everywhere because we thought it was cool. I mean, it works.
You ever gotten to a crawl space and seen a critter in there with you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, we do a lot of inspections a year, well over 1,000, and it's not a matter of like if, but when and what. You know?
Gosh, I can't imagine getting under there and finding a snake under there with me.
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah, they're out there. They're definitely out there.
Lots of big spiders.
Or spiders.
Lots of those. Lots of spiders. Yeah.
So since you said that gutters weren't mandated in the state of North Carolina, how often do you inspect homes that don't have any? And what are obviously the major issues would be foundation, but how often do you find homes that don't even have any?
Oh, all the time. I mean, it's either they don't have any or the home's been remodeled or they've had an insurance claim on the roof. Then the roofers will come out and redo the roof. They have to take the gutters off, and they don't replace the gutters because the insurance doesn't cover it in North Carolina.
They do. They do if I guess
some
if
guys
they're
do.
damaged.
A lot of guys won't. If it's like storm damage or anything like that, the guys will either put the old ones back up or will not put new ones up because they don't want to eat the cost. And I understand that. But we see them all the time. Even on new construction homes, we'll see maybe a builder did like the front over the entryway and didn't do the rest of the house.
That's so sneaky. Yeah.
It is. And then
you're not thinking about it.
You see the cover photo of the home, and you're like, okay, gutters, got it. But not on the back of the house or anywhere else.
I didn't have gutters on the house that I had sold in Harnett County. There wasn't gutters until I remodeled the home and added gutters on it. But you could tell in my crawl space that I did.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a purpose for them. Absolutely.
Lots of moisture in my crawl space.
Any gutters.
Yeah, yeah. But you're gonna get them.
Yes.
She has those rain chains too, which I love.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have a rain chain in my house. It's awesome to watch.
Yeah, and they work really well. You don't have to have the one thing I do not. So my office has the leaf guard gutters where it has like the bullet
curl over. In the front.
I've noticed that for all my houses, I need to have either that or some type of cover because my office has the Leaf Guard brand as well, and they're pretty good, except for I noticed that they are ridiculously expensive in certain areas. Like in this area, they're not that bad, but I tried to get an estimate for a lake house, and they wanted like $30,000. And this is a 2,000 square foot house, and then a boathouse, and then a little shed. And my mouth, and they were really pushy about it. And I'm like, okay, people. Well, it was like $4,000 for my office, so obviously I'm not going to go for 30. Yeah. So we ended up just doing like a traditional gutter with like some sort of cover on it, just to kind of mitigate some of the leaf that
help a little bit.
But there's things still accumulate on them, so you need to blow them off, right?
Yeah, you always have to maintain it regardless. You see all those advertisements about maintenance free and stuff like that. But
do you see a lot of dirty air filters? I feel like a lot of people. And how often should you be replacing those?
Monthly.
Yeah.
We always say get the cheap filters and then replace them monthly. The HEPA filters and those allergen filters are great, but the cloth on them is really thick, so your system is working real hard to intake that air. It doesn't affect the energy efficiency rating, but if you don't change them, and then over time, then that gets clogged up. So it's just easier to change them often and just do the cheap ones.
What about the systems that have the yearly ones, the thick ones that are actually in the system itself in there?
Yeah, you have to kind of read the manufacturer's labels on those, and then you have to buy those specific filters for like the whole house filters on those.
Yeah, that's what we
So always bounce it off of Google it, bounce it off the manufacturer
Google,
on those.
Dr. Google.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big believer in Dr. Google.
Yeah. We have information at our fingertips.
Like
Use
you
it.
can.
Yeah.
And then, I'm sure buyers, they kind of self-educate themselves about certain things and they'll ask you questions, but I'm sure
We
they
hope.
welcome questions, right?
Absolutely all the time.
Now, I'm assuming, though, that when you're doing a home inspection, I have had in the past, when I was working primarily with buyers, some that wanted to follow the home inspector around every single second.
Yeah.
And I just found it being very distracting.
It is.
And it's time consuming.
Yeah.
And it's always better, in my opinion. You can be present, but to let the home inspector do their thing
Sure.
and then do the summary like Melody
Yeah,
recommends.
that's what we did yesterday. We showed up the
Mhm.
last 30 minutes and walked through everything, and then we're able to look at things in person.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
We're
what
happy to
we
take time with your clients, and we're not rushing anybody out or anything like that. But like you said, it is distracting. And we were looking at a whole lot of information on the home, and we're there for a limited amount of time. So we don't want the scenario where, client comes out and is hovering the whole time, what are you doing? Things in that. And then they move in and it's like, well, you were like watching my back the whole time and we were talking the whole time.
Yeah,
I was trying to be
this
nice.
one thing
and-
because
yeah.
I was turned around talking to you.
Yeah, and we walked right past it.
happens.
Yeah, we're human. So yeah, we do encourage attendance towards the end if possible. At least give us a little bit of a heads up so we can get a foothold on the house before anybody gets there.
Yes. I forgot even the name of the home inspector, but there was a home inspector once that my client wanted to use, and I never heard of the guy in my life.
Sure.
And he was there, and I forgot, this was so many years ago, so I don't really remember the story that well, but I remember him not testing the HVAC properly. And I had done enough home inspections to know that something didn't seem right.
Mm.
He seemed rushed and he did not use a ladder whatsoever. And I just felt like he was too quick and he was too fast and he seemed very disorganized. And so I told my client, I said, look, I really recommend that we get another home inspector out because I don't feel good about the home inspection that was done. And it's funny because it was like a newer townhome. It wasn't like an older property or anything like that, but I still just felt like there was something missing. And so we had another home inspector out and the HVAC was not working at all in terms of the compressor needed to be replaced, the split. What are you looking for? How much of a different?
14 degrees is the general okay split temperature differential on those things.
Yeah.
I mean, on older systems, you kind of almost think, if they're at 15, 20 years old, you're almost at the end of life on those
things. If
things.
it's LP though, don't those burn out the heating elements faster? I heard it's about 10 years for
It depends. It depends on if it's an exterior gas package unit.
Gas
obviously.
exterior.
Yeah, if it's on the
LP.
exterior, then the elements are beating that thing up a little bit faster than they are.
It burns hotter than natural gas, right?
A little bit, yeah. It does burn a little bit hotter. And then the transition of that air from the heat exchangers to getting to the conditioned areas is a little bit different. Yeah. And I think the moisture content's different as well. So that creates that condensation on those heat exchangers and then the rust and things like that.
Yeah.
But, then on the flip side, you see ones that run for 20 years and it just depends on the use and things.
LP you see running for 20 years?
You can, yeah. They're out there.
I
It
feel
doesn't
like
mean they're running efficiently.
had their elements changed within that 20-year period because
Yes.
I was
Yeah, they've
told
been
by
maintained,
a
yes.
lot of HVAC contractors that we have LP heat at our property. And so one of our properties, and it was kind of like it's a ticking
Oh, it's going to fail.
cost.
100%. Yeah, it's going to fail.
Baseboard heat at my mountain house.
Ooh.
That is expensive.
Electric baseboards?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
very expensive.
So that's like using heat strips to heat your house.
Yeah, pretty much. So
Yeah.
you're gonna
Lots of
really,
them.
yeah, lots of them. So you're gonna
Lots of
really,
them.
and it's inconsistent heat too.
Yeah.
How much is your heating bill in the winter?
About $500.
Yeah, I believe that.
$500-$600. But then in the
Jeez.
summertime,
Nothing.
$40. So,
Yeah.
'cause you don't have
So it's like the
AC.
same.
Yeah, it kind of evens out.
It really does even itself out.
When you
Yeah.
got that first bill, were you like, whoa?
What is this? Yeah.
When people are renting it, you're like, this is different.
This is a little.
Oh, and people renting it, they don't.
They don't care. Yeah, they don't care. They'll run the gas, even though it's really just for.
Is it LP or natural?
It's LP.
Okay, yeah.
it's LP
Do you have an
there.
underground or an above ground tank?
Above ground tank, and it's just for the fireplace, just
Oh,
fans of the
okay.
fireplace.
That's
But we
all
have a
you need.
timer on it, so it's 30, 60, or 90, and then it cuts off for them. So That way, if somebody ever left it running,
Yeah.
we wanted it to be able to cut off automatically. So we paid to have that
So
installed.
they
on
can
the
go to
wall.
bed and like keep it going all night long.
Exactly.
People
Or
will.
the house.
People don't care.
It's like when you go
Yeah.
to the beach house, you want the AC running, right? And then I'll go in visit my mom, and she's got the door wide open.
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
such
oh
a
my
thing.
gosh.
With the AC on.
We
Yeah.
put these like hardcore, like marine style, like what are those? Like the arms.
that like
So it like
Hold
you
it
cannot just leave it open. Like you're gonna have to put something very heavy
Yeah,
because it's
that's-
like boom, closes
Yeah.
the
'Cause
door.
people like to do that. It is what it is.
It's so terrible on the units.
Oh,
It's so terrible. It creates so much moisture. Oh, it's so terrible.
That when you inspect a property at the beach, it's so different than inspecting a property here in Raleigh.
Yeah,
It
you know
is.
to
Just
inspect
the sand.
pilings.
It is. Huh?
You check pilings.
We do. Yeah. We check pilings like on elevated homes,
You,
still
like, dig
houses
down?
and things. No, we don't dig down.
You're supposed to.
We can only see what we can see.
Oh, you're supposed to.
Yeah, we have limitations.
Well,
It says that on
I'm
our
glad
stuff.
my guy dug down because
No,
he
no,
said
no,
that
we
our
don't.
home could fall down.
That's
Mm.
crazy.
No, we don't dig down.
Yeah.
But yeah, the beach is completely different.
The mountains, it's different, you know?
Yeah, I learned about the beach and the mountains, and runoff in the mountains is very significant. If you have any type of view or you're at the bottom of, a peninsula or
Mhm.
something like that, you have to think about runoff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you guys look at runoff issues?
We
that
look
you
at
can
grading.
see? We had a driveway
Mhm.
that you could tell that it was kind of wrinkling and
Sure.
dropping.
Yeah, we look at the slabs, like if the slab's pitched the wrong way or if it's sunk or anything
It
like
was
that.
asphalt.
Or asphalt. Asphalt will shift as well, just like poured concrete will.
Yeah.
But yeah, we look at that, and then we include that in the grading around the house, things like that. So if it's pitched backwards, or if the garage slab's pitched backwards or sunk or anything, we see it.
Yeah.
Especially in the area, we have what's considered to be expansive soil. So winter time is different than the summertime. Moisture content's different, so it expands and contracts. And we have what's called differential settlement. So we see it all the time.
Everyone needs to get a home inspection.
Yeah.
Really.
100%.
And especially new construction buyers have too much faith in
The builder.
and
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
local inspectors that just do permitting. I actually had a situation where I forgot the whole thing, but it was a buyer that bought a home and it was a screened in porch and it failed the home inspection.
Sure.
But it actually passed through the town. It was closed permit. It passed. And the person that actually closed it was no longer working for them. And I can imagine why.
Conveniently enough.
Yes, but I was just like in shock that the seller thought that it passed and everything was okay, but it needed thousands of dollars of work that was missing.
Yeah.
And I was just at the prime example of you don't always have people that are
Mhm.
looking with the town or the county
Right.
that they're either they just don't have enough time or they're not the person for the job.
Yeah.
And that's rare, but it happens. And
Yeah.
the only way for you to know for sure is to have an independent second view of the property
Mhm.
via a third party home inspector.
You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, we have a non-biased opinion on the home. We're just there to give you the facts.
Do you give any discount? Let's say they do a new construction and then they do a 1 year with the same inspector.
Yeah, so they get an automated email that comes out after their 1 year, after their new construction, and they get a discount code on that. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep,
Good.
I sure do.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your time. And I had so much fun talking about Frying Pan Tower and home inspections and
yeah.
everything like that. So thank you for coming. What's your website? NewLeafHomeInspections.com?
Newleafinspections.com. Yep,
NewLeafInspections.com.
got it.
And I think the next time that we go on, we're going to talk about Puerto Rico. And we will see who the mystery guest speaker is for next week. So thank you for joining us, and we'll
Thank
see you
Thanks for coming, Blaine.
Yeah, thank
next
y'all.
week.
Thanks for listening to the T.A.R. Life podcast with top producing mega agent Erica Anderson. If you've enjoyed this episode or found the content to be useful or fun, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Visit our website at www.teamandersonrealty.com. We are actively serving the Triangle area, Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, and the coastal regions of North Carolina. If you're looking to sell a home, please contact Team Anderson Realty to set up an in-person or virtual consultation today.